All right. Hi, everybody. We'll be getting started soon. Hello, welcome. Hi, Nathan and Leo. That's great. Oh, well, I guess it's time to get started. So, my name's Andy. I wear bow ties because bow ties are cool. I'm coming to your home from my home with our 3D printer. Science Center is currently closed for the health and safety of our guests, our partners, and staff. But we'll be bringing you live science demonstrations every day at 10:30. So be sure to subscribe. There's lots of fun stuff to go. Uh-oh. And it is already starting its print. There we go. So we're going to be talking about the 3D printer. We have 5 3D printers at the Great Lakes Science Center. This is number 2, as you can see, because it's labeled number 2. Has anyone ever seen a 3D printer before? I know before I started working at the Science Center, I had never seen a 3D printer before. Hi, Marshy Puff. Thanks for joining us. And so here's how a 3D printer works. Before I get ahead of myself, this particular 3D printer is called a MakerGear M2 D. MakerGear is a local company. They're based in Beechwood. And so we got this 3D printer from them. We also have M2Es. So this is sort of the 4th version of their 3D printer. The M2E is the 5th generation, so the 5th version. So a few people have seen 3D printers before. It looks like an old phone on the top of it. Yeah, it kind of does. So here's how a 3D printer works. There are rolls of plastic on the side. So this one has 1 roll of plastic. There's another one here. So that roll of plastic, they call it filament. And it's this thin, lightweight plastic. It's a kind of plastic called PLA. PLA stands for polylactic acid. It's a plant-based plastic. This is actually biodegradable, and if you do it the right way, you can even compost this stuff. So it's really environmentally friendly. What it does is it has gears up in this box up here and pulls that filament from the roll into something called the hot end. And that hot end warms up to about 220 degrees Celsius, which is pretty hot. It's around 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Really, really hot. And it melts that plastic and then lays it down in layers. And once it cools, it will lay down layer by layer on top of what it's already printed. So it's sort of like if you had a normal printer printing with ink and it lays ink on top of ink that it's already made. That wouldn't work too well, but because the PLA is thick and it cools down really fast, the printer is able to lay on top of what it's already printed. Each strand of plastic, each little bit of plastic that it puts down is about 0.5 millimeter thick. That's a little less than the thickness of your fingernail. So this, it it's capable of incredible precision. It can make really, really intricate things, but it can't do anything that's less than 0.5 millimeter. So it has its limitations. Another limitation that it has is gravity. So if I tried to print something really fancy, I would have to be sure that it has some sort of support. I'm just trying to make a very simple oval shape with some text on it with this printer. But you can make some really amazing things with the 3D printer. They actually have a 3D printer on the International Space Station. They use it to print faceplates and tools and things. So it's really, really amazing piece of technology. And in the future, what they're probably going to do with space travel is they'll have a bunch of material. It won't be like this. It won't just be plastic. It'll be a lot of different kinds of material that 3D printers would be able to use. And they could use those when they're going into deep space to design tools or design pieces of equipment. So if they had a really good 3D printer, they could make parts of other spacecraft or tools. And yes, Erica, you can print a 3D printer. You can print parts of 3D printers. This 3D printer, another printer like it, printed this knob. So that knob is 3D printed. There's a housing up here for the filament that's 3D printed. And then back here where the filament is, that holder that holds the filament in place, that's 3D printed. So it's really cool what you can do with a 3D printer. In fact, there's a few things I have here that were 3D printed, and you can tell that they were 3D printed because of, you can see the layers. You can see certain things that messed up when this was being printed. So this is Baby Yoda, or the child. If you look really, really closely, you may be able to see layers of filament, those plastic ridges on Baby Yoda here. That's how it was laid down bit by bit. But you can also see right here on the back of his hood there's a piece of filament that's hanging down. His ears are a little rough because gravity pulled it down. Gravity pulled it down and it didn't have the right support. So that's one thing that was 3D printed. Here's another thing that was 3D printed. It's a gorilla head. So that's kind of detail that this 3D printer can do. Someone asked if you can 3D print food. That's what they're working on. They're working on 3D printers that can print food. So this kind of technology is really easy to change to other kinds of material. So this one uses plastic. You can print with metal, not with this kind of printer, but there are types of 3D printers that can print with metal. And then there's other types of 3D printers that can print with cells or with food. So you could print something edible if you had the right kind of material to use to lay down. So we are coming to the end of my time. It's nearly 10:40. So I could go on forever about the 3D printer, but I'll have to end it here. The thing that I'm printing is going to take about half an hour. It depends on how, well, it says that it's going to take half an hour. So yeah, you could use frosting. You could design a 3D printer that could print a cake, and then another printer that puts frosting on top. Anyway, depending on how intricate, how detailed something is, it would take a while to print it. So Baby Yoda took a few hours to print, but then this is smaller, but it only took about 14 minutes. This is not 3D printed, and you can tell because there's no ridges on this. You could smooth the ridges out, but you can tell by looking at this that it was not 3D printed. Anyway, I'm going to thank you for joining me, but I do have a challenge for you. I'm going to print this, but I want some other ideas for things to 3D print. There is a website called tinkercad.com, tinkercad.com, and you can go on that website and design things that could be 3D printed. So here's what I want from you. I would love some ideas for things to 3D print, and I'll be back at 3 o'clock, and I'll show you the results of those ideas. So I'll show you what this thing is at 3 o'clock, but I'll also show you the things that you came up with. So somebody said 3D print a cat, so I could 3D print a cat. A 3D printer could 3D print parts of a printer. So this knob was 3D printed. 3D print a fox, a seal, D&D dice. I can see. But yeah, so share your ideas on social media. Tag us. You can use our hashtag, Stay Curious, CLE, and I'll see what I can do with your ideas. The website is Tinkercad, TINKERCAD. And one final answer to one final question. This specific 3D printer costs about $2,000. So there are some 3D printers that cost less. There's some 3D printers that cost more. This one costs about $2,000. So anyway, thank you very much for joining me. My name's Andy, and I'll see you at 3 o'clock to find out what that thing that I'm printing is and to print some of your ideas. So see you again at 3 o'clock. Remember to stay safe and stay curious. Goodbye, everybody.